in a white room with no curtains. Think about that image. It's an image of purity, an image of no contrast, an image where everything is all just perfect. Is that life? This week I was listening to a YouTube video online with T.D. Jakes. If you don't know T.D. Jakes, he's a very, very popular Christian minister at Potter's House. He's got a huge ministry worldwide. And T.D. Jakes was talking with Stephen Harvey, and he was sharing with him the 5 steps to happiness. And I listened really closely to see what he had to say because the man speaks a lot of wisdom. And I wrote down all the steps to happiness and said, I wonder how I can channel this into a talk. And then I started to allow that to settle as I do. I take things and I don't act on them immediately, but I allow them to settle within me. And then I recalled the book that I'd read about a year and a half ago called Happiness Now by William Holden. And I remember reading that book about how we can be in a happy state. And so then I started to reflect back when I first found the teachings of Science of Mind and how our thoughts create. And I was enamored with the idea that I could create a perfect, vibrant life steamed in happiness, constant happiness, all the time happiness. And as I've gotten wiser, I realize that that's impossible. That is pursuing, a life pursuing happiness is a life pursuing fool's gold. Did you hear that? Fool's gold. Why are there 30-40% of our population on antidepressants today? Think about that. I know men and women who are going out dating and they start dating and things are going well. The next thing you know, they find out that their partner's on all these drugs. Well, what is it that's causing this? It's not that it's bad that they're on these drugs to help them fight the symptoms. That's not the issue here. But what is the cause? Because cause is always in mind. And we can reflect back from the very earliest beginnings of our life that we were taught that we were here to be happy. Is it not in the American dream is about the pursuit of happiness? So let's examine these things really closely. We don't have to accept what people put out there as the truth. When they say it is our dream to pursue happiness, well, let's question that. Let's look at that. And so let's look at that from the standpoint of what is happiness. Happiness is an emotional response to a cause, and the cause is never constant. It is a natural law that there is contrast. It is a natural law that everything is changing. That's nature. And our role is to be in nature. Our role is to constantly be seeking, to be moving, to adjusting. And when we have control of our thought process, and we understand that the control of our thought process is how we demonstrate experience, we realize that we are in the midst of this vortex of circles, of actions, of people. So all the people here, if you come together and you interact, everything will be changing moment by moment, by moment, by moment, by moment. And everyone's going to be coming from a different perspective. And with each different perspective, there's going to be new things being thrown at us and which we get to respond to. And you see, that's the key. We get to respond to what's in front of us. So I want to get rid of the illusion that we have in Science of Mind or that it's put out in society that we create everything in our life. We do not create everything in our life. We create our experience of everything in our lives. Isn't that interesting how we look at that? Because most of the creation we do is through our unconscious mind, unconscious patterns of thoughts. The other part of the communication is we have no control over another human being. We have no control over our children, our spouses, our parents, our friends, our neighbors. We have no control. They're coming from their unique perspective, and to the degree that they interact in your life, you are affected by that energy coming in, and you get the choice. You can't change their energy, but you can change how you respond to their energy. I think that's the secret. That's truly the secret. And so then, it's not about seeking a life that's happy. It's living. Do I have a meaningful and fulfilling purpose in my life? That's the nuts and bolts. That's the key that we're looking for. Do I have my unique, meaningful, and inspiring, self-fulfilling, self-chosen purpose that has evolved through all of my life, that is continuing to evolve? And am I conscious enough to focus on bringing that purpose forth and living from it? I venture to say that 99% of the people in the world do not have that down. And if they had it down 5 years ago and they haven't re-examined it, it's different today. Why? Because we're constantly changing. We're always changing, and so we have to be re-evaluating. Where are we in relationship to our lives, what our experience is, and based on our experience at that moment, how are our unique gifts being used to bring forth a greater way of being service in the world? I mean, our experience in our life can change like this. In one breath, something can happen and our whole world changes. The question is, how do I use my gifts in that experience? That's what we're always looking at. How can I be? The question you hear people say, how would love express itself? You've heard that before. Well, what's love? Love is when we're authentic and we're giving our uniqueness out to the world to be of service. You see, if I am self-serving, and let's examine the idea of self-serving. Self-serving means I take the time to nourish myself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physical every moment of every day. And as I do that self-serving, I'm able now to be of service. You see, if I'm not doing my spiritual work, I can't be spiritually nourishing with someone else. If I'm not doing my mental work, I can't be mentally nourishing with someone else. If I'm not doing my emotional work, I cannot be present for someone else. If I'm not taking care of my body temple, how can I be physically present with people to do that which I love to do, which is a being of service? This is the whole idea. We're doing a class right now that's phenomenal about creating our perfect, healthy body. And it's not that you want your body to look like this. It's you want your body to function in a way that allows you to best give your gifts, to be of purpose in the world. Oh my God, yesterday, Deb Tate over there got married. I mean, it was an absolutely incredible experience. And I want to talk about one woman in that group. And this woman, I won't use her name, but this little woman, she was a petite little thing, a teeny little, tiny little thing. But this woman came to be of service. And she was the bread and butter. She was the lighthouse. She was the control tower of that wedding. Everything to the detail, because you may not know this about Deborah Tate, but Deborah Tate plans where every hair on her head is in every moment of every day. She is detailed beyond belief, and that's why I love having her work with me on the Agape board, because I'm a bit out here. And so Deb grounds me, brings me back to center, and then when she's too grounded, I take her off into the ethers, and then we come on back. And you see, it's a dance. The key thing about this woman, though, I remember talking to her at the rehearsal, and I asked her about, how come your husband's so happy? And she said, because he listens to everything I say. And he's over there, and he looked at me, and he says, yes, I do. But you see, he chose to be that way with his wife. That's the key thing. He wasn't being compelled to be that way to be happy. He wanted to be that way to be of service with her. Does that make sense? You see, it's not whether one way's right or one way's wrong. What is the intention into which we go and do things? What is the intention of how we're with someone, how we respond to them? Is it from an act of service? For him, serving his wife meant listening, because, being honest, he didn't have to think. Because she knew everything. Women, is that not true? Do you not know everything? I see a lot of heads going up and down. A lot of men are putting their eyes down like this. The idea is the feminine does know everything, but the feminine is present in every human being. The masculine is highly intellectual, and yet the masculine is present in every human being. So we come to the idea, remember we talk about change being constant, that there's always a yin and a yang, there's a positive and a negative flowing. Happiness is not. Happiness is about being in balance. The masculine balancing with the feminine, the intellect balancing with the feeling nature. It's about balance and living from the standpoint. You see, when we're living in balance, we're living from the state of the divine. Because the infinite nature does not know contrast. The infinite nature can't know contrast, because to know contrast, there would have to be something outside of the infinite to know it against, and that cannot exist. So let's take it a step further. What is peace? Peace is this: when we can say we are grateful for everything in our lives. It's not that when we're grateful for one thing and not another, but we have to be grateful for all things. And in order to be grateful for all things, we've got to take a step outside of our limited mind, outside of our nearness to the situation, and we've got to become the infinite nature. You know, here's the real key thing. We are this human body. This human body is what we're demonstrating in the planet at this time, right? But we understand that there's an essence, an allness of us, the soul we call it. And this soul essence is present within this body, but it's so much bigger than that. It's present with all that exists. There's a connection with my soul and your soul and everyone else's soul that we don't get to see. So if we can step out of our human body, out of this limited mental mind consciousness, step into the soul consciousness, step back, go 100 miles above and look down, we can see that in every single event there's good. In every politician there's good. Ooh, that's a tough one to say, isn't it? But if you think about it, no matter who the politician is or what the politician's views are, they're bringing about contrast, through that contrast allows everyone to process, and in the collectiveness there will be a greater shifting because the contrast is there as opposed to no contrast. Contrast is what brings consciousness to evolve to a higher level. So you've got to bless contrast. You can't condemn it. You can't knock it. You've got to understand that it's coming from a different level, and it may not be your level, but don't condemn it. See that there's good from it and understand that good comes out of everything, because it's all God. It's all divine. It's all infinite. There's nothing separate from us. It's all there. It's through the illusion of the separation that we create for ourselves that we get the pain, that we get into this unhappy state, that we get into the state where we feel hopeless, that we have no dreams, that it's impossible, that we're beat down. And then we've got to turn to things like drugs, sex, rock and roll. And all we have to do is be still. See the balance. And that's what meditation does. It allows us to see the balance. It allows us to come into alignment with that which is within us. It's not that we're becoming into alignment with that which is without us. We're coming into alignment which is in us. Because when we start focusing on going out without, we start thinking there's a God out there. There's not a God out there. God is everything. So the way we start is God in here. This is why we talk about opening our heart. We open our heart to feel love, to know love. So what is love? Love is the feeling of gratitude when we accept that everything is on our path. You see, we go back to knowing that we have a purpose. It's inspired from within. It's all about our gifts. And when we have that, we see everything as on the way and not in the way. That's a John D. Martini quote, and I love that quote. That's one of my favorites of all time. Because I didn't get that at first. I didn't understand that. I've had to work through years and years and years. 5 or 6 years I've been working on that idea. How is everything on the way and not in the way? But as you explore an idea, you start to realize that all of the heartache, all of the problems, everything that's ever occurred is about bringing you to a higher realization that it's on your path, and through that stimulant that may be really painful, I'm growing. I've expanded beyond my perceptions before, and I am now able to see life in a bigger, broader fashion, so I'm able to what? See life more through the eyes of the infinite. What I really want you to understand is you don't get to enlightenment. I've got about 80 books in my bookcase that say, come get to enlightenment. Poppycosh. We're infinite. We are infinite. What does that mean? We will infinitely be expressing. We will infinitely be rising. We'll be infinitely changing. I don't know what it looks like after this human form, but I know that that infinite will not stop becoming more aware of itself. It's not that it's growing, but it's becoming more aware of itself. That's what we're doing. So when you hear the idea of a soul group, whether you believe in it or not, a soul group is a group of like-minded souls that are of a level of consciousness. Another soul group has a different level of consciousness. And your soul groups and people interact so that the whole can raise up and experience even more. So you embrace contrast, because as you embrace it, you're able to embrace yourself. See, the beauty is what you see in that person that you don't like, you can't not like unless you see it in yourself. And what you see in this person over here that you like, you can't help but like because you see it in yourself. You see, everything out there is a mirror of who you are, what you believe, consciously and unconsciously. So you are attracting into your life from one experience everything that is in your conscious and unconscious mind. The question I ask, is it what you want to be focused on in your conscious and unconscious mind? And you see, that's the work we do at Agape. We understand that we connect in meditation, and we understand that we direct the law through prayer, through affirmations, through gratitude, through forgiveness. And when we have those two pillars in alignment, we are in control of our perception, of our experience. But we do not control the world. We control our relationship in the world. I am not of the world. Jesus said that. I'm more than this world. I am the perfect whole individualization of God. As I am, you are. Does it get any better than that? I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.